Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inform New Hampshire. My name is Dean. This is my co-host, Richie, and we are broadcasting live on Manchester Cable Television, Channel 23, every Monday evening, Thursday morning, Saturday, Sunday morning. We also have a YouTube channel, which is called Inform New Hampshire, and we invite you to stop by there and check out our TV shows and click the like button if you like it and subscribe if you will. Every week we start off with a little tribute to our friend Jerry DeLamus, who is a political prisoner taken captive over a year ago now from the federal mercenary police force. And he was taken out of New Hampshire, being kept in Nevada in very poor conditions. And all he did was stand up for what was right when it came to the Bundy Ranch out west. So, Richie, you want to say something about that?
Yes, what I'd like to say is that in light of what President Trump is doing, I'm very optimistic that Jerry will be home soon, very soon. I hope that's the case anyway. But in the meantime, Jerry and his wife still have legal bills and a bit of a burden since Jerry is in jail 2,000 miles away. So if you could pray for Jerry and Sue, and you also find it in your heart to financially help them out, you can go to freejerrydelemus.com and give $5 or $10, whatever you can afford. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. And that's JERRYDELEMUS, jerrydelemus.com. We are going to talk, about the police today. Going to pick on the cops. Not really. Before we say anything about the cops, I want to say this to the police out there listening. Myself and Dean, along with a lot of other people that we associate with, got your backs. If we ever see you in a gym and you need help, we're going to be there for you. And we have been there for you in the past. However, having said that, and it's true, if you are doing something wrong, you're on your own. And that's what I'm here to talk about, because there are things being done wrong. And I'm hoping to point them out to you. You can listen to me or not, shut the TV off or whatever. Also, if you want to share this with people, it's on Inform New Hampshire on YouTube. And this is episode 52, right, Dean?
Yes.
Today? Okay. Episode 52 you can go to. And please, I ask all you guys, share this with all the police. That way I'll be a marked man in the state of New Hampshire. But I'm saying that jokingly. One of the things that people don't realize, I didn't realize it in my career, all right, 22 years in law enforcement, basically. I did a lot of consulting work after I left the job, and that is that statutes are statutes. They are not the law. And if you look up the meaning of those words, the law and statutes, you'll find out the difference. Here's the law right here. This is the United States Constitution and the New Hampshire State Constitution. They are the law because it says so right in the books. The supreme law of the land, the U.S. Constitution, and the state Constitution. And I know people say, well, the U.S. Constitution has been usurped. It's no longer valid. I say it is, because it's the people's law. It belongs to us, and I'm going to fight for it. And I'm going to fight for it with the help of the police. Right now, the Bar Association is the one that's controlling the corruption in our courts, but it goes beyond the court system. They're in all three branches of government, and I'm saying attorneys. The bar teaches our attorneys, tests our attorneys, and then licenses our attorneys. The bar is the British Accreditation Registry. And for those of you that might not be good in history, British, that's who we broke away from 240 years ago. So why is our attorneys being licensed and taught by that association? Just answer that question. And I would appreciate it if you check out this. When you write a traffic ticket for somebody, what you're doing is saying, here's your ticket for $50 or $100 or whatever amount you put on the ticket. And basically you're saying to the driver, you're guilty of this, because you expect them to pay it. And the supreme law of the land and the state constitution both say in different terms, I'll go with the supreme law of the land, The Fifth Amendment says nobody shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Due process of law is defined in here. It's the Bill of Rights. A warrant must be served properly. You must have a jury trial. And it says in here, in suits at common law where the value in controversy exceeds $20, which a $50 ticket would be one of those categories, the right of jury trial is preserved. Well, if you have the right of a jury trial and you got to go to court or you got to pay this thing, you're being deprived of that. Your property's being taken from you. That's money, your property. When you go to work, you're trading your time for money. And then the state is saying, well, give it to me because you rolled through a stop sign. You're not a criminal, but you rolled through a stop sign. Very serious matter. I don't know if you want to say anything right now. I can go on if you want, but I don't want to take up the whole show.
No, keep going.
Okay. The other point that I wanted to make is that any traffic ticket is what's considered a bill of attainder, and it also violates your Fifth Amendment rights and the state constitution. Statutes, though, and please read this, look it up and look for the definitions, guys. The law and statutes. Why is the statute called a statute? The statutes are simply this. We are the sovereigns, and it says so in Article 7 of the state constitution. So we tell the legislature, okay, guys, we're going to elect you to make statutes. Those statutes are public policy. Public policy means public employees. You're regulating the behavior of the state employees that we pay. Not me, not Dean, not you. I mean, when you take your uniform off, you're a sovereign too, whether you like it or not. So what I'm trying to say here is the statutes apply to government employees. They don't apply to the general public. Look that up and look into it and research it. Right now, unwittingly, the police are the glue holding the corruption in the state together. Because you enforce those things and you bring it into the courts, in this Admiralty jurisdiction courts. Admiralty jurisdiction is the law of the sea. I don't see too many boats on Elm Street, or any other street for that matter. We are the law of the land, and this is the law of the land, this is the law of the land. It's called common law, which our government is hiding from us. But if you don't read these books, guys and gals, you're not going to know this. Don't accept what someone is telling you because it's being done by design. It's been going on for 70 or 80 years now. And through all of our collective ignorance, we contribute to this. We make this mess. You stop me in my car and say, I'm going to write you a ticket for rolling through a stop sign or going 40 in the 25 zone, whatever the case is. And because I'm ignorant of the law, I don't even know what you're writing me a ticket for. Oh, okay, I agree with you. If I knew the law, I'd be saying, you're giving me a bill of attainder. It's unconstitutional. It's against the law. Unless you're going to allow me to go into a courtroom with a jury trial, as the law says. Not a lawyer says, not a judge says, the law says. What is written is the law. And how many times have you said, I don't know, I'm not an attorney? And please don't say never, because I've said it myself. When I was in uniform, I was just as ignorant. The problem is, since I'm out of the job, now I've learned. I wish I did it the other way around, but it's still not too late to help educate people. You got to read the law, and then you'll understand it, not asking an attorney. Because an attorney doesn't know. They're not even properly taught in school. The bar is teaching them the way to take this system down, so we'll be debt slaves for the rest of our life. All of us, not just, a few people that get a traffic ticket. And one other thing that I'd like to say, and this is being used, and I happen to think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I happen to think that Jerry DeLemus was picked up on a bogus warrant. And by bogus, I mean it's done under the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights under the U.S. Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. Because the Fourth Amendment says that in order for them to execute a warrant, the warrant must be signed by a judge in wet ink, not a rubber stamp. A judge, not the clerk of the courts, not your cousin, not the chief of police, a judge. And it has to be supported by an affidavit, notarized affidavit. That way, if I accuse Dean of something, and there's an affidavit attached to the warrant, if I say Dean's got drugs in his house, they search his house and no drugs, well, he can come back at me and sue me because I sent these people on a wild goose chase, and I signed the affidavit. So it must be perjury. I must have been lying. With the Patriot Act and the NDAA, which is even worse, that's beyond on steroids, that garbage. They're both unconstitutional. Marbury versus Madison said it's unconstitutional. Anything repugnant or in opposition to the Constitution is null and void. The Federalist Papers, which are the people who wrote the Constitution, says the same thing. How can you have two laws in opposition of one another? Which one do you go by? It says in here you go by the supreme law of the end. The other one's null and void. Would you like to jump in?
Yes, sir. I just want to preface my statements to reiterate what Richie said, in that both of us are very proactive in supporting our police community, especially here in Manchester. I've been in I've had a number of opportunities to be out in the streets in support of them, and have received a lot of acknowledgement from them in doing so. So we have a great relationship with the police, with the police departments local. And so what Richie and I are pointing out is two things. Number one, not necessarily going after the police themselves, although our hope is to educate and inform, and which is true of everyone in our audience, but with the police force in particular, because what's missing is a background of history and a background of understanding of what's really happening behind the scenes and what is the larger picture of what's happening. So what Richie was pointing out is that we've reached a point where all of our fundamental rights as humans on the land are being usurped by a fraudulent system that was overlaid on top of what was a organic constitutional country, now being run by privately owned corporate entities. And we don't even know who owns these entities. So when you look at the local police department here, or the local school department, the school board, the fire department, all of them are privately owned corporations, and it goes right up the line to the state, which is another privately owned corporation, to the United States Incorporated, to the IMF, the United Nations, and beyond. So, and over to the Crown Vatican. So there is a long arm of intrusion that is happening from the international banking cartel. They use the United Nations to come up with this Project 21 and now Project 30. Is that
Agenda
what it's
21.
Agenda 21 and Agenda 30, which is a very sophisticated and covert stealth plan to reach into our communities and usurp the political agendas and turn it into a communist type of organization. And there's so much going on. I'm gonna get lost on my subject here, but what's happening in the police force is that, as Richie said, they've taken what was designed to be a control mechanism for public servants, and they've imposed it on the entire population. And in doing so, they took away what is a fundamental right for you and I as human beings that is given to us by God, so above government, a fundamental right beyond government, taken those away from us and given us a few privileges that they dictate as they see fit. And those privileges might be enumerated in the Constitution, but ultimately there's far more to our fundamental rights than just what's in our Constitution, state or federal. So kudos to you police officers that are working in the field. God bless you and your families, especially who have to worry day to day what may or may not happen to you while you're out serving the public. But here's the problem. A lot of the police departments, because it is a privately owned corporation, they're really out to generate revenue and income. Richie and I have done a couple shows on the CAFRs, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, that each of those corporations that I mentioned earlier has as their financial structure. They don't talk to you about it, they hide it, and they talk to you about their budget, which is a theoretical idea of how they might spend their money this year, but they talk about it like it's life and death, and if they can't meet their budget, they got to extract more money out of you. Wrong. They have a lot of money in that CAFR to the tune of $60 trillion when you add them all up, some 80-some thousand CAFRs around the country in total. But I wanted to get to, and unfortunately I didn't set my timer, so I don't know my timing. You got anything? Can I keep going?
No, I got something, but go
All
ahead.
right, you go ahead, and I'll jump in after that because I want to switch gears a
All right,
little bit.
what I wanted to say to you is I'm an older guy. If I were your chief and what was taught to me, I'm teaching to you, doesn't make it right. And that's my point. That's my whole point. And it's no one's fault. It's all our collective ignorance. We've been dumbed down over the last 150 years. All of us. I'm the biggest offender, the biggest dope. I worked at MCI Norfolk in Massachusetts, which is the state's largest prison. Or was, anyway. I don't know if it still is. And it's a violent place. I would love to see a world where there is no violence. But I don't know that that's going to happen. Ever. However, I don't want to see cops being shot because they're enforcing statutes that they shouldn't be enforcing. And people who are becoming aware are saying, I don't like being pushed around. I'm supposed to be free. This is supposed to be a free country. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that just because something like that happens, a cop should be shot. Nobody should be shot. Nobody. It would be a great world if we didn't kill one another. But I'm saying this because I would like the cops to look into this. Don't take my word for anything, but please look into this and find out for yourself. Read the state and federal constitutions. And don't listen to what someone's telling you. These are the law. The written word is the law. The people made this law, and the people made this law in New Hampshire. No one else. The people did. And I didn't elect, well, I won't say I, we didn't elect the legislature to say, okay, make statutes to rule over us. No, the sovereign makes the law. And Article 7 in the state constitution in New Hampshire says, we are the sovereign, the people. That's further evidence, but if you don't read that, you're not going to know that. So I'm asking you to get all these. These are, I don't know, $1 for the two of them, $1.50. I don't know how much they cost. This one here I think you can get for 50 cents, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know about the state constitution. This was given to me. But I'm asking you to please read it, and I'm not attacking law enforcement. That was my career. I wouldn't do that. I know what you guys go through. I respect you. But you have to bear some of the burden. Just like the general public and the legislature. I'm trying to educate the legislature along with Dean to tell them what they're doing is wrong. And by the way, on YouTube, go to Dick Marple, who's a state rep in Hooksett. Dick Marple in court. That's a guy that knows what he's doing. 86 years old, sharp as a tack, and he knows what he's talking about. Listen to him. I'll go turn it back to you, Dean.
Well, I wanted to mention that one of the things, thank you for that time stamp. I'm going to start that. So one of the things that's happening with the police forces around the country is they're really being pushed into revenue generation. Of course, this has been going on for a very long time. So I'm just going to read you a quick thing about an example of that, which is, as if getting arrested and taken to jail isn't painful enough, residents in Ramsey County, Minnesota are forced to pay booking fees, whether or not they are eventually found guilty or a crime for which they are charged. One example, the latest, and some have said is outrageous, revenue streams, comes from the case involving Ramsey resident Corey Stratham. Arrested and charged for disorderly conduct, Stratham had in his possession a total sum of $46 in cash. Released 2 days later after having the charges dismissed, he attempted to reclaim his possessions, only to learn the jail had charged him $25 booking fees in place of the cash, which the cops took from him upon his arrest. The authorities returned to him a gift card for $21. The remainder after the booking fees were withheld. Worse yet, the gift card came with a myriad of fees, which made getting the $21 quite impossible. First, there was a $7.25 fee to withdraw funds from an ATM. Then there was the $1.50 maintenance fee per week and a per occurrence of $2.50 to withdraw the funds at an ATM where Stratham didn't have an account. all of which made it nearly impossible to get the $21 in cash in hand. Stratham sued the county. According to the New York Times, the nation's highest court is considering weighing in on the egregious practice of what some are calling government-sponsored extortion, which all too often hits the poorest the hardest. So the Supreme Court will soon consider whether to hear Mr. Stratham's challenge to the Ramsey County's fundraising efforts. Anyway, I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit, but there's a number of other examples of this sort of thing going on. But as police departments seek to make up for budget shortfalls, instead of focusing on catching criminals, a conflict of interest arises. Just last year, the Justice Department report found that Ferguson, Missouri Police Department, along with the courts, worked to enforce the municipality's penal code to supplement up to 30% of the police force budget. The report concluded Ferguson law enforcement practices are shaped by the city's focus on revenue rather than public safety needs. This emphasis on revenue has compromised the institutional character of Ferguson's police department, contributing to a pattern of unconstitutional policing, and has also shaped its municipal court, leading to procedures that that raise due process concerns and inflict unnecessary harm on members of the Ferguson community. The Free Thought Project has reported many police officers are uncomfortable with their roles in generating revenue for their departments instead of focusing on what led them to law enforcement in the first place, to fight crime. Left unchecked, the new sources of revenue streams can be as controversial a subject as unlawful arrests. So here's some examples of some of the fees that are coming up, and this is happening everywhere in government. You can't go anywhere to a government, your license, your registration, if you lose your license, you got to get a new one. Everything you do, they charge a fee for everything, which they shouldn't be. You're already paying taxes.
Well, can I jump in with
Yeah,
this?
go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that, as I said before, I don't mean to be redundant, but what Dean just said is basically supporting the Fifth Amendment to the Supreme Law of the land, the U.S. Constitution, that you shall not be deprived of life, liberty, or property. Property is your money. So the police or the courts can't take it away from you without due process, which means a jury trial. And the other thing, and this is for your benefit, is when you ask an attorney for legal advice, check it out and make sure it's right, because they give bad advice because that's what they're taught. I'm told by national attorneys, some of them, that the Constitution isn't taught in law school. Constitutional law is, but not the history of the Constitution, and that it's the supreme law of the land. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you take the advice of an attorney and you go out and enforce a statute, you're liable for it, not the attorney, because you did it on their advice. But all they got to say is, hey, you should have checked it out. You're supposed to know. You're in law enforcement. You should know the law. And like I say, guys, this isn't an attack on you. We really are trying to help. So I encourage you to please read the laws. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, there are some very nasty forfeiture laws in place now, which are causing police departments to confiscate things and not give them back. And they come up with their formulaic ideas about how somebody may be committing a crime if they show a certain pattern in their life. Like, for instance, a woman who, and I'm just going to ad-lib this from what I heard on the Alex Jones show, but it was a woman that had worked her whole life with her own business, had made cash deposits almost every day of the week because she ran her own little business, and she would take that money to the bank and deposit it. That happened to be the kind of pattern that might show up for someone who's doing a drug-related business. For that reason, they came in and confiscated all of her money, her bank account, and all of her financial assets. And upon evidence that clearly this woman was simply running her business and depositing the money from that business every day so that she could save up for her retirement and her future, they just laughed at her. And they said, too bad, we're taking your money. So that's the kind of criminal behavior and the out-of-control government authority and position that we just can't have in this country. We won't survive that long. That type of criminal behavior does not just remain stagnant. It grows. And it generally speaking, what you'll have is those who are willing to take part in that type of criminal behavior get promoted. They are kept in place, and those who try to whistleblow are generally the ones who get kicked out or ostracized, or they remain quiet and just do their job so that they can protect their families and their jobs and have an income. Go ahead. Yep.
No, the cops that did that initiated that raid, were given an order to do it, and believe me, I understand orders, but nobody was as obstinate as I was with my superiors, because if I thought they were idiots and they were wrong, I told them so. I've got suspensions and terminations to show for it, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'll do it all over again, many times. If they're wrong, period. The Nuremberg trials, which was a military situation, they asked people, why did you kill those women and children? Why did you do this, shoot unarmed people? They said, well, I was ordered to. Guess what? Those people were sentenced to death or prison. You can't be ordered to break the law. So you have to know the law. Then you can tell your boss, hey, that's against the law. I'm not doing that. I work for the people. I'm not doing that. That's the point we're trying to make here.
So Richie and I have the good fortune, and I'll iterate it again, of living in Manchester, and we have an outstanding police force here. I haven't seen or heard of much corruption here. All I've seen is just a great bunch of people that are doing their job. And I'm, there's probably a lot that I don't know because I don't exactly research Manchester police, but I just can say that everybody I've talked to has a lot of respect for them. So thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. However, consider there is this, and this is not going to go away. We, the people, have to take control of our government and our fundamental rights. They aren't going to be given back to us. We have to take them back. And we do it by educating people, by waking people up, and pointing out the truth and the facts over and over and over again until we reach a critical mass. And
Hallelujah, Dean.
Yeah, we're nearing that point as we speak. There's just so much going on. So I'm encouraged. Again, I want to thank you, police officers in Manchester. Just consider what we've said. Maybe do some research. It is common knowledge in certain circles that what Richie and I have described as happening is true. It's absolutely true. So worth thinking about, worth researching, and maybe over time there will be a critical mass within the police departments around the country to actually do something about what's happening. All right. So do we have anything else we want to comment? We got about a minute and a half, Richie.
I just wanted to say that we talked about the glue, with the police being the glue that holds the corruption together. I didn't mean to imply that was intentional, because it isn't. But when the police go in and raid someplace because they're being ordered to do so, and they don't know if they've got a legitimate warrant, you guys are guilty of that. And you might have to answer for it if the person is smart enough to take you to court. So I'm suggesting that you know the law better than the attorneys. And that's not hard to do, because the attorneys are only in this for the money. Every damn one of them are in for the money. And I used to have respect for attorneys. No more. No more. I don't even want to get into it. I do have respect for the police because I know what you guys do. So we're just trying to be helpful. There's good and bad in everything. We're just trying to be helpful.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in this week. Richie and I appreciate it, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.